All right, so get this. Today, we're really diving deep into the life of, you know, Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks.
Yeah. And I know what you're thinking. Everybody knows the bus story.
Right.
But trust me, there is so much more to her than just, that one very important moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so easy to kind of simplify these historical narratives into these
Right?
easily digestible stories. But with Rosa Parks, I mean, the more you dig in,
Yeah.
the more you find, the more depth there is to the story.
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. Like, what were the forces that kind of shaped her even before, the boycott? Because she didn't just wake up one day and decide to make history.
Right. Well, I mean, you could argue that her story begins even before she was born, in 1913
Oh, okay.
in Tuskegee, Alabama. Two parents who instilled in her this very, very strong sense of self-worth, and two grandparents who were actually slaves.
Yeah.
So that's not even just history, that's family history.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about a direct link to the legacy of slavery. That had to have had a profound impact on her worldview.
Absolutely. And you compound that with, growing up in the segregated South. And
Wow.
imagine being a child
Yeah.
and seeing firsthand how people are treated differently just based on the color of their skin.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that from a young age, she had this
Got it.
deep sense of justice.
Yeah, it's one thing to understand, segregation intellectually, but to actually grow up experiencing it on a daily basis, that must have lit a fire.
Oh, absolutely it did.
Yeah.
And here's something that I think is very interesting that a lot of people don't realize. Even with the, segregated schools and the limited opportunities,
Right.
her parents made sure that she got an education.
Okay.
She attended the Montgomery Industrial School for Girls,
Okay.
which was a place specifically dedicated to empowering young Black women
Wow.
at a time when society was trying to hold them back.
That's interesting. So even her education was, steeped in this kind of fight for equality. It wasn't just about academics. It was about, like you said, empowering, a generation to believe in themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sadly, she had to leave school early to care for family members.
Oh, right.
A story that we unfortunately hear far too often.
Yeah.
But this is where you really see her strength and her determination.
Right.
She takes on this responsibility, she works, and then a turning point, she meets and marries Raymond Parks.
Okay, so tell me about Raymond. How did he factor into her journey?
So Raymond's more than just her husband. He was her partner in activism.
Okay.
He was a barber by trade. But crucially, he was a member of the NAACP
Okay.
and introduced Rosa to that world. And she joins in 1943.
Oh.
And she doesn't just join.
Yeah.
She becomes the secretary to E.D. Nixon, who was the chapter president.
Hold on, wait. She was running the NAACP chapter.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a far cry from that, that quiet seamstress image that we,
Exactly.
that's often portrayed, right?
Exactly. And her work was dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Jim Crow South.
Yeah, this is serious business.
She was documenting racial discrimination.
Right.
Organizing voter registration drives. These were activities that could get you killed back then.
Yeah. It's easy to forget how much courage it took to just speak out against injustice during those times.
It is essential that we remember that. And I think this is something that, this wasn't some abstract fight for Rosa Parks. This was deeply personal. It was rooted in the realities of her life.
Right.
And the lives of those around her.
So she was already a seasoned activist long before, the bus incident. But there's more to the story, right?
Yeah.
I've heard whispers about a place called the Highlander Folk School.
Ah, yes. Yes. You see, she wasn't just fighting. She was learning how to fight strategically and effectively.
Yeah.
The Highlander Folk School, that was a fascinating place.
What was that all about?
It was like a training ground for activists tucked away in the hills of Tennessee.
Wow.
And they taught everything from labor rights to racial equality.
Wow.
All centered around these principles of nonviolent resistance.
Okay, hold on. Nonviolent resistance. Now that rings a bell.
Yeah.
But can you unpack that a little bit? What does that mean? And why was that so revolutionary?
Well, you see, back then, fighting back often meant meeting violence with violence, right?
Right, yeah.
But the folks at Highlander, they were teaching a different way.
Good.
They believed in confronting injustice head on.
Yeah.
But through peaceful means,
Right.
boycotts, protests, sit-ins,
Right.
it was about exposing the injustice while kind of maintaining this moral high ground.
So it wasn't just about enduring oppression. It was about actively resisting it.
Yeah.
But in a way that, you're right, kind of captured the conscience of the nation.
Right.
It's brilliant, but also incredibly risky. It makes you wonder, what was it about that approach that really resonated with her?
That is a great question. and one we will get into right after this quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
You know, it's funny, she actually attended a workshop there at Highlander Folk School.
Okay.
Just a few months before the bus incident.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it focused on applying nonviolent resistance to segregation.
Oh, wow.
Almost like she was preparing for something.
Wow, that's some timing.
Right.
Yeah, it's like all these things are coming together, her upbringing, her work with the NAACP, and then this training, all these different threads kind of leading up to this.
It's like all the pieces falling into place, right?
Yeah, wow.
So December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks boards the bus.
Right.
And refuses to give up her seat.
Refuses to give up her seat.
And this is where the narrative often gets simplified.
Okay.
People assume it was a spontaneous act of defiance.
Right, like she was just tired.
Right, she was just tired from a long day.
Yeah.
But the reality, I think, is far more profound.
Right, because she even said herself she wasn't physically tired, right? She was tired of giving in.
Tired of giving in?
Right, yeah.
This was a deliberate act of resistance against a system that had been oppressing, her people for generations. And this is where her story transcends just the individual and becomes a catalyst for collective action.
Right.
Because what happens next? The Montgomery bus boycott.
The Montgomery bus boycott, 381 days, over a year of Black people refusing to ride the bus.
Can you imagine?
The hardship, the carpools, walking miles in protest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
It's a testament to the power of unity and shared purpose. I mean, think about the daily sacrifices that people made.
Yeah, absolutely.
The inconvenience, the lost wages, the threat of violence.
Absolutely.
And yet they persisted.
They persisted. And it wasn't just about the buses, though, was it? It was about something much bigger.
You hit the nail on the head. It was about dignity. It was about equality.
Right.
It was about reclaiming their humanity in a society that had systematically denied it for far too long.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Okay.
The boycott's success had this ripple effect. I mean, far beyond Montgomery.
Oh, yeah.
This energized the entire civil rights movement.
Because this is where we see a young preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. kind of step onto the national stage.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, King, with his powerful message of nonviolence and his just incredible ability to mobilize people, found a platform during this boycott.
Wow.
And he became this voice of a movement that was sweeping the nation.
Okay, so the boycott ends. Segregation on buses is ruled unconstitutional.
Right.
You would think that's a happy ending, right?
Right.
But I'm guessing Rosa Parks' story doesn't end there.
Sadly, no. Victory often comes at a price.
Right.
She lost her job.
Wow.
She faced constant threats.
Oh.
And ultimately, she and Raymond decided to move north to Detroit for safety.
That's heartbreaking. It's kind of, a stark reminder that even when you change the world doesn't always change for you. A tragic reality for sure, but here's the thing about Rosa Parks.
Okay.
She never stopped fighting for what she believed in.
Okay.
Even in Detroit, she continued her activism.
Really?
Oh, yeah, focusing on things like housing discrimination,
wow,
economic justice, even spoke out against the Vietnam War.
Wow, so she wasn't just focused on one issue, but on this, this interconnectedness of justice itself.
Exactly.
That's remarkable.
And here's another often overlooked aspect of her legacy, her dedication to future generations.
Okay.
In 1987, she co-founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development.
An Institute for Self-Development. That sounds like a very deliberate choice, given, everything that she went through.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for Rosa Parks,
yeah,
it wasn't enough to simply change laws.
Right.
It was about empowering people to change themselves and their communities.
Okay.
The Institute focused on providing opportunities for young people, particularly Black youth, that they might not otherwise have.
Like what? Give me some specifics. How'd they go about doing that?
Sure. I mean, they offered a whole range of programs.
Okay.
Career training, mentorship, tutoring, all these things designed to help these kids succeed, academically, professionally.
Yeah.
But I think what's really interesting is they also provided this,
yeah,
deeper, almost like a social education.
What do you mean?
So they would take these young people on historical tours, bring in speakers who had lived through the civil rights movement, connected them with their own history.
So it was about more than just, the job skills and stuff. It was really about, it sounds like, instilling this sense of purpose, a sense of connection to this, ongoing fight for justice.
Absolutely. And they weren't just learning about the past. They were being equipped to shape the future.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And, she received some pretty incredible recognition for her life's work. We're talking Presidential Medal of Freedom, Congressional Gold Medal.
You're talking about a woman who was honored by presidents, celebrated by world leaders.
Wow.
Beloved by millions, I mean.
Yeah.
But I think beyond all the accolades and the statues and the commemorative days, it's that unwavering spirit, that I think continues to inspire.
There's that great quote from her. She says, "I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free so other people would be also free." And it's so simple.
It's so powerful.
But it's so powerful,
It really speaks to, the core of who she was. This wasn't about her. This wasn't about her ego or getting, personal recognition. This was about something far greater than herself.
Right. Yeah. The pursuit of freedom and equality for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a pursuit that continues to this day. I mean, it makes you wonder what she would have to say about the state of the world today.
Yeah.
What injustices would she be fighting against? What would she be urging us to do?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves. Because as much progress as we've made since Rosa Parks' time, that fight for social justice is far from over.
Right.
We still see systemic racism, discrimination, oppression in various forms.
Absolutely.
And I think she would challenge us to never grow complacent, to never stop questioning, to never stop pushing for a more just and equitable world.
Yeah, she famously said that she wasn't the first person to refuse to give up her seat on the bus.
Right.
Makes you wonder, who else is out there right now?
That's right.
Fighting these battles, big and small, that we may never even hear about.
That's the thing about history. It's often told from such a, limited perspective.
Right.
But there are countless unsung heroes out there.
Yeah.
People who might not make the headlines,
right,
but are demonstrating extraordinary courage and commitment every single day.
So for our listeners out there, what does this all mean for us, the everyday people listening to this? What can we take away from her extraordinary life?
It's a call to action,
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play
right,
in creating a more just and equitable world. We might not all be Rosa Parks, but we can all embrace that spirit of courage, that unwavering commitment to justice, and that belief in the power of collective action.
Right. It's like that Margaret Mead quote. She says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
And Rosa Parks proved that.
Yeah, she did.
She absolutely did.
All right. So to our listeners, I'll leave you with this. What will your act of courage be?
Yes.
How will you contribute to the ongoing fight for a better world? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life and legacy of Rosa Parks.